I was always in sports, man. I played football, I think, from age 5 up until maybe my sophomore, junior year in college. I was a decent football player, somewhat impactful, not necessarily a X factor on the field, but had a very good understanding of the game. I knew how to make a difference, and football has always just been my passion. It's truly how my dad and I have always connected. It takes a village. As cliche as that sounds, I'm sure your mom probably told you that as a kid. I've heard that multiple times when I was a kid, but it truly takes a village because if you want a player to truly develop, they're not going to fully develop at practice. You got to do things outside of practice, right? So it takes a village, man, and
The harder you grind, the bigger you dream.
The harder you grind,
The bigger you dream.
Hey, the harder you grind,
the bigger you dream.
Whoa, whoa.
The harder you grind,
the bigger you dream.
The harder
the harder you grind, the bigger you dream.
Let's get it, let's go. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I said the harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I said you're up and I'm up. Y'all now tuned in to the Grind Hard Dream Big Show. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I got a special guest in the building. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, man.
Cool. Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Eric Lane, from Landover, Maryland, also known as Kentland. Athletic director, in addition to head coach over at Kentland Columbia Park Youth Sports Association. So, I'm just here, spread some love, some positivity, just let the world know, and the DMV as a whole know that Kentland is back, and we doing something positive. We want, some kids to come out and be a part of something great.
For sure. So, like, your upbringing, your childhood, like where you were born and raised in the DMV, for sure.
Yep. So, born and raised DMV PG Hospital, like most people in our age bracket. Grew up in Kentland, same household, literally my entire life. Went to elementary school at Columbia Park, elementary school Columbia Park, middle school at G. James Golson, and I graduated high school from Fairmont Heights.
Okay.
After that, went to University of Maryland Eastern Shore, UMES class of 2014, and after college, I joined the Army, where I did like 9.5 years active duty, and I transitioned to the Army Reserve in January 2024. So, I'm back in Landover now, just giving back to my community and, pouring into the next generation.
For sure. So, like, I guess with, like, pouring into the next generation, right, and working with the youth and things like that, what do you feel is essential for, I guess, older people like us to understand and know and the things that they need to, I guess, own in on and stuff like that? Because I feel like sometimes it can be a gap between or maybe a misunderstanding. So, like, what is it that made you feel like, okay, you know what, I'm doing all these things, but I want to help the next generation?
Got you. So, growing up, I saw my dad. He's been coaching football at Kentland since, I think, like 1988, 1987, give or take. So, I'm born in 1992. That's pretty much all I saw growing up was my dad pouring into this organization, pouring into the Kentland Columbia Park community. And while I was away in the military, I always had this yearning desire to give back in some form or some capacity. So, I would do community service here and there, but it was very difficult for me to connect to individuals that I wasn't necessarily, from that area, from that neighborhood. So I vividly remember having a conversation with my dad in November 2023. I told him I was coming home. He was like, well, I want to start this program back up. So I was like, well, Dad, I'm committed to you. That's my word. And, let's do it. So my dad set a great foundation and a good example for me to follow, just wanting to be a steward in my community and wanting to give back to other individuals.
That's good. I think that role models or just those figures, when you see them at an early age, you kind of realize how pivotal and vital that could be for your development. And then it's like, all right, bet to pass that on as well. So as you kind of like, like transition to things, like, did you have any hobbies or things that you like doing early? Or?
Yeah. So I was always in sports, man. I played football, I think, from age 5 up until maybe my sophomore, junior year in college. I was a decent football player, somewhat impactful, not necessarily a X factor on the field, but Had a very good understanding of the game. I knew how to make a difference. And, football has always just been my passion. It's truly how my dad and I have always connected. I see sports as a segue to teach you numerous things in life. Because of sports, I understand how to overcome adversity, right? Because you're not always going to win every game, so you know how you're going to bounce back. I understand how to be a good team player. We can always point the finger at someone else, but when you're watching film, the spotlight's on you. So it's like, how are you going to respond to that adversity and take ownership and accountability of your personal actions? So, just the individual accountability, understanding teamwork, understanding good sportsmanship, I feel those are all essential tools that you need to be a successful man, really, honestly. And, credit to my dad and obviously other coaches I had, the lessons that they taught me and how difficult they were, as far as coaches and how tough they were, I wouldn't be the man I am today if it wasn't for sports. And not necessarily about player development, but more so character development. What can you learn from this sport that you can propel and take into your next chapter of life?
For sure. I definitely think that sports teach you a lot. Like for me, I would play sports to like socialize. I wasn't really heavy on like football like that. I mean, I would play, but that's like, like backyard, whatever.
Right.
But like basketball was kind of like my thing. I liked basketball more than I liked football, of course. But I use it from a social aspect. Like the homies a player, I play, cool, keep you out of trouble, keep you, grounded, disciplined, and things like that. So I guess with the age groups and the kids that you work with, what is it vital for them to kind of learn? You sat there and said that sports teaches them, beyond life. But what are you seeing with these young kids and, you interacting with them and you working with them every day?
Yeah, so one thing I will say is that I feel like I learn more about myself working with these kids than probably what I teach them. But a few things that I have learned is that these kids want to be led, man. They truly want to be led. Some kids may not come from a two-parent home, may unfortunately be a single parent in the picture. And just knowing that, they look up to me, they have a positive outlet, to look forward to a couple days a week. I look forward to that every day as well, just kind of helping me find my purpose. But I guess to get back to your question, what's the question again? Sorry.
Yeah, as far as like, and like what are you seeing with them and like installing in them early?
Oh, got you. So attention to detail. Football can be a very nuanced game. Yes, it's only flag at the moment, but you want them to have attention to detail, have individual accountability, and lastly, just have fun, really, man. I think a lot of times when you put a lot of pressure on a kid to excel and to excel at a high level, a lot of times you may take the fun out of it. But I guess my three things as a coach is just accountability, understanding your role, and most importantly, just having fun. Yeah, just having fun.
I think that's definitely dope that you sat there and said that, because a lot of people, especially with the youth sports and what I've seen, I mean, like I said, I love sports. I know the DMV. I understand the competitive edge. You know what I'm saying? You got different clubs that's always playing. You've probably always had that predominant club that's always been winning games or whatever. I think it's very necessary for them to understand, like, okay, you're learning. Yeah, win, lose, or draw. Of course, a lot of coaches, we all will want to win. Mm-hmm. But then at the same token, just realizing, okay, like, we're not them and they're not us. But we need each other to thrive. You know what I mean? So in
definitely.
That particular space, so I'm glad that you sat there and mentioned that, because some youth games I will go to and I'll see, and I'm like, all right, well, we adults, so if we don't set the example and they sit there and see all the foolishness and all this other stuff that goes on, like, what are they supposed to look up to if we acting like this? I mean?
You want to know something that's funny? Because last year, with that being my first year coaching, it was rough, man. And I realized that I didn't always set the right example for them, but it took some honest conversations with other fellow coaches, my dad, in addition to the parents that we serve, and I realized that I had to set a better example. And last year, in comparison to this season, definitely, very proud of myself, the coaches, in addition to the parents and the players, of course, as well. I think it starts at the head. We give them that positive example to follow, and they're going to follow. They're going to emulate exactly that.
For sure. So I guess, like, because a lot of people look at success and measure it from like the
Mm-hmm.
records or the championships, the accolades, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Going into it, what did you feel like was essential for you? Because like, of course, like building the community, of course, Kentland having a special place in your heart. Of course, your stomping grounds, born, raised, and of course, integrated yourself in it. How vital was that for you to be like, okay, you know what? If I'm embracing this position that I'm in, it's important for me to establish the community and understand the parents' buy-in as well as the players.
Right. Repeat that question again.
As far as like the
Y'all
buy-in,
cut that out?
no, you could.
Gotcha.
As far as the buy-in, like with the community itself,
Yeah.
like of course you being a coach, and then of course also like the buy-in from the parents
Yeah.
and the players, like. How has the community been receptive, and why do you feel like it's so important, like going in even prior to them
Absolutely.
practicing or playing games? Why is that important?
Absolutely. So, it takes a village. As cliche as that sounds, I'm sure your mom probably told you that as a kid. I've heard that multiple times when I was a kid, but it truly takes a village. Because if you want a player to truly develop, they're not going to fully develop at practice. You got to do things outside of practice, right? So it takes a village, man. And me being from the community, having that voice, being able to connect, because I still live there, of course, and obviously I was born and raised there. I think that makes a big difference when people understand and see my passion and my, the burning sensation I have for the organization. Leadership is not easy, man. Just keep me the stack.
No, it's not.
It's not, man. But it comes with a lot of consultation, a lot of thick skin, to say the least, for lack of a better phrase, and just remembering the reason why I do it. So, if a parent or myself may have a disagreement, I do have to humble myself a lot of times. Just give people that space to talk, to vent. Curse me out if they have to. But I know I'm here to serve these kids and ensure that I'm pouring into them. Yes, I do need the parents for them to succeed as well, but. What's most important to me is them kids, man, the babies.
Yeah, no, for sure, definitely. I think, with our youth now, just making sure that they have the positive role models, the people that they can look up to, the people that can pour into them, the people that can keep it a stack with them and let them know, like, all right, cool, like this may not be that. All right, I need you to be on this side of the street, not that side of the street,
Yep.
or like, okay, you probably listening to music that you probably shouldn't be listening to or whatever. But at the same time, just being cognizant and being mindful of that as well. So as far as like everything going on, like how do you manage or like, I guess like delegate? Because a coach,
Yeah.
they see you and they probably be like, oh yeah, this is the one
Right.
person, but I'm only as good as my staff. I'm only as
Yeah.
good as my parents, or vice versa.
Honestly, it's hard to delegate things, man, because a lot of people don't want to volunteer, and a key word that a lot of people shy away from is commitment. So there have been instances where we have been burned by individuals, metaphorically speaking. They may prematurely commit to doing something, they may not follow through. But I think right now we're building something great. My dad, Walter Wilson, Coach Walt, he's the president. Myself, I'm the athletic director, and we do have a very firm executive assistant. Her name is Brittany Cathcart. So as far as delegation, it's tough right now, because we do need more volunteers. But for the most part, when we ask a parent to fill in or, to patch up a hole somewhere, they are able to do that, which I'm grateful for. But, over time, it'll get better as people learn to buy in and they're more willing to buy in and accept those roles, because everything we're doing is volunteer based.
Got you.
It's 100% volunteer based, and a lot of people, when they do find out it's volunteer based, they may not want to commit because it does require I wouldn't say too much of your time, but it requires a decent amount of time.
Right.
And when you're invested into something, of course, it's going to consume a vast majority of your day, although it is, volunteer based.
Right.
So, the delegation part is something that I would like to just delegate, but I think in a couple years we might be fully functioning where we can add more people to more teams as we grow and evolve as an organization as well.
For sure. And like I said, like anybody that's out there that wants to work with youth and understand it, the key word is volunteer, okay?
Yeah.
You have to understand that being of service to your community and wherever city you reside at, because I think a lot of people look at it and they can look at it and be like, all right, well, it's the title.
Right.
And like you sat there and said, like, commitment or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to work your way up or whatever it may be. Just embracing that opportunity and being willing to, volunteer and realizing, like, yo, it's bigger than you. You know what I mean? It's not just I get to do all this, but, like, yo, just realize that you are going to be a light for somebody else to see.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of people, we live in a world where they want instant gratification. And with us being a not a new program, but a program that's revitalizing ourselves, we haven't had a team since 2018. So 2024 was the first time since Kentland's had a team since 2018. And, we're going against multiple programs that have been established, for the past decade. So Kentland was a premier program when I was a kid. But, unfortunately, due to politics, budgetary constraints, COVID, they did fall off the map a little bit. And so it's difficult, man. A lot of people, they want that instant gratification. They want that instant success. But they don't realize that a lot of these teams, the coaches started young, just as I'm doing. They started when the kids were 4 and 5 years old, and that coach went up every year with those teams. So us being a fairly new team, we're going against a coach that's had this team for maybe 5 years. Of course, they're going to be more polished. Of course, they're going to have more players. Of course, they're going to have more volunteers. That's just the reality of the situation. But I think we do a good job of helping the parents understand that it's a marathon and not a sprint, and I'm grateful for that because the only thing we ask for as coaches is effort. Our 8U team this year, they only won one game, I think, out of 7. And they won their last game. But if you look at their progression and their maturity and their matriculation from the first game of the season up until that last game when they finally got the win, you'll be like, wow. The average person may say, oh, they suck. They're 1-8 or 1-7. They didn't win any games besides their last game. But every game, it didn't matter what the score was, man. These kids gave full effort. They gave full grit. They never walked off the field with their head up, and I'm grateful for that. That's just a testament, I believe, to the coaches that coach them, in addition to the parents. And I'm just eternally grateful that the parents understood that process and understood, hey, this is a new team. They're 8 years old. They're going against teams that have already been playing together for 3 years. So it's a process, man. It's definitely a process. It takes a lot of explaining to do. Because most of these kids, they may be first-year players, and as a parent, this is their first year seeing their kid in their organization. They're expecting to win. But we just preach player development and character development. I know in sports there's no such thing as moral victories, but when it comes to the youth, you have to be cognitive of that. You can't just press, hey, let's win. Just preach effort and getting better and giving 100% every day.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that comes from, like, just competitive nature, the DMV.
Absolutely.
All of those things, like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I was winning when I was a kid. Like,
Nah,
I'm going to make
definitely,
sure that
man.
my youngins do the same thing. You feel
Yep.
what I'm saying? So when they look at it, it's easy to be like, all right, you know what? This is this person's fault. It's that. It's
Yep.
quick to do that. But like you said, the accountability factor as well, and just realizing and being realistic with the situation.
Absolutely.
Like I said, like, for the basketball aspect, like I
Mhm.
said, even from that notion, like, coaching youngins or just helping youngins every time, I'm like, yo, like, you can't have one basketball practice and expect to be Kobe. Like,
No.
yo, you got to keep working.
Repetition
and
is
crab
key.
it. Yeah, exactly.
You need those reps, man.
Get those reps in. Like,
That's with anything in life.
yeah, and you have to do it. You have to do it consistently, and if somebody has to remind you to do it, you don't want to do it.
Right.
And that's what I'm like. Even with like myself, because I'm working with teens.
Mhm.
So like even working with the teens, like telling them that like certain times when I go see teens play basketball, I'm like, all right, well, you sitting there talking a lot. How many free throws you shoot? How many layups you make? How
Right.
many laps you run up and down the court? Like, do
Right.
you want it? Do you like it or do you love it?
Yeah.
And you have to tell yourself that, because I think with social media, like, we've said this instant gratification thing. We see the highlights. We see all the makes. We see all the crossovers or
Right.
touchdowns.
You don't see
somebody
the
said they're
struggles. You
doing.
don't see the grit.
Yeah, you don't see all that.
You don't
know
see
what I
the
mean?
practices where you're running the same play 50 times in a row
Right.
until you perfect it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Because we're just seeing the touchdown or the crossover or they broke the tackle or all those things, but you
Yeah.
don't know the muscle or whatever they had to do prior to to get it to that
Yeah.
point.
How is it coaching teenagers, man?
It's cool. It's cool. They're receptive. They're receptive, but a lot of them, like I said, they like the highlights.
Yeah.
So but getting them to believe in themselves, that was cool. And then, like I said, making progress. So, like I said, we had just won a tournament.
Okay.
Our last tournament. So
Congrats.
we had another. Appreciate you for that. So we have one more in the summer, and then we good. But like it's a 14U, so I'm proud of them. And like I said, they came a long way. A lot of those kids, year 1, year 2, some of them played, the game for like 4 or 5 years. So me, just taking it on board, they didn't even have a coach.
Wow.
So like it was just the point. It was like you got a group of talented boys.
Right.
Nobody wants to sit there and coach these kids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, you know what? I'll do it. Like,
Yeah.
but been locked in with them for like a year.
Okay.
It's been fun, man. I mean, like I said, just seeing them grow throughout the time and just seeing what they can do. A lot of them have, hoop dreams to, play, for their prestigious high schools and things of that nature.
Right.
Others just like to socialize and just play the game just 'cause
Right.
it's like, yo, got something to do, keep me off the street. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or whatever.
Nah,
So
nah,
that notion
definitely.
as well. So, yeah, it's always dope. And I tell the kids all the time, like, I'm here to show up the best way I can. I can't expect you from me, but I know that one thing is, like, if you do want to win and we all know how to do it, we're going to buy in. And I believe that you win games when you are selfless.
Yep.
Like, when everything is just clicking. Like,
Yeah.
everybody's not thinking about themselves. Like,
Yep.
I bet, from the football realm, you have your quarterback, you got your running back, you got your line, you got your
Yeah.
wide receivers. Everybody's on the same, accord. Same
Absolutely.
thing with the defense. Like, okay, you got your defensive line, or you got your linebacker, you got
Yep.
your cornerback, safety, whatever position you play that position the best way you can, and then just be able to, communicate and get an effort on both ends. And at the end of the day, you gave it your best and you helped your team out.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
do what you gotta
man. Yeah, I just believe in simplifying the game. It doesn't have to be complex, man. I'm very fundamentally based. That's how my dad is. I remember as a kid, my dad would literally run the same play the entire game, like, and he always tells me this one thing: they know what you're doing, but can they stop it? So, as a coach, you can know what they're doing, but are your players prepared to stop it? Are you teaching them the correct things to stop that particular play? So my dad, he would literally, very fundamentally based, old school guy. He would just say, hey, I'm going to keep everything simple, stupid. And he would run the same play every game, man. And if they can stop it, cool. If they can't stop it, you can keep beating them in the ground. That's just what it is.
No, for sure. And I think that, like I said, paying attention to details is key too. So that's what I tell the kids. Like, if you're playing any sports, pay attention to details. If you're watching football, watch the whole football game. If you're playing basketball, like, watch the whole basketball game, because you got to understand that it's a game of runs, it's a game of intensity, details on both sides. Whether you're playing the offense, whether you're playing defense, just understanding what your role is and embracing that assignment, man.
Absolutely. And you would think at 4 years old, everybody wants the ball, right? They're young, they're kids, they're 4 and 5 years old. I have this very, very talented kid, man. Probably the last couple of years, the most talented kid I ever coached on the field. Last year, he would come to me and be like, Coach, I want the ball, I want the ball, I want the ball. And I'd be like, well, LJ, I need you right here, man. I understand you want the ball. You're talented enough to have the ball, but I need you in this space right here. And at 4 years old, he wasn't really receptive to that. But this year, he'll be like, I want the ball, Coach. I want the ball, Coach. And I'd be like, LJ, I need you here, man. Can you do that for me, man? He'd be like, got you, Coach. And he's probably my most versatile player that I've ever coached, man. Just from his versatility, his flexibility, his understanding of the game, and his overall aggressiveness, man. I've never seen someone that young willing to place their ego to the side and do what's for the betterment of their team.
Yeah.
And, I'm looking forward, man, to just growing with this group, man, but also evolving the organization as a whole, because not just football, we do basketball, and we're also looking to start up soccer in the fall as well.
Okay.
So, we're looking for players in addition to volunteers to help us progress in that endeavor, because it's a youth sports association. And I know a lot of times within the black community, all we know is football and basketball. But we're open-minded and willing to embrace other sports as well. just to give the kids a positive outlet and something to help reform and evolve their lives.
Nah, for sure. I definitely believe that. I mean, you know, like I said, because if it's not basketball or football, soccer is an option. I mean, like I said, lacrosse is a sport as
Yep.
well. You know, you have all these other endeavors and different things that kids can definitely explore. And so, nah, I'm for all that. I like
Yeah,
that.
bro.
And you know, I think, you know, the more selfless they become and just understanding like the role and what's required,
Right.
it allows them to become a better player. I tell the kids all the time, like, you know, just do what needs to get done. You're going to play with intensity. Everybody's going to play. I don't believe in this notion of, okay, you know what, I'm going to play at such and such players and that's it. Like, nah, the whole team will play. You know, everybody will sit there and gravitate towards each other. And I think, you know, I always pay attention to the players that are coachable.
Right.
You know, coachable in the process. Okay, you know, you're on the bench. What's your attitude on the bench? You know,
Yep.
you're cheering everybody else on.
Body
You're waiting for your
language.
team, your body language.
Yeah.
How do you feel? You know, and like I said, at the end of the day, how are you going to be able to help the team?
Yeah, because you
That's
got
the biggest
you got to
thing.
be a good teammate, man. And I'm quick to tell my players, like, you're not being a good teammate, man. Go ahead and sit down. Like, you know, although you're not scoring a touchdown, you can still celebrate. You missed a flag, but did you give up? You know, don't give up. That's just one play out of a 35-minute game that we're playing. So I agree with you on that, brother.
Yeah. I mean, because that's the thing. Like, when they look at those things and it's like, all right, cool. And that's going to want to make the coach even want to, you know, more excited to see
Mhm.
your attitude where it's like, okay, well, from week 1 all the way to week 8, if we play like 8 games or whatever the season went to, it's like, okay, how can I see your development? I mean, if you weren't someone who was a team player first 2 weeks, but in the last remaining 5-6 games, you stepped it up and something went in, then, you know, at the end of the day, like, a coach can highlight that and be like, look, you was well on your way.
Yep.
And that's what they have to realize.
Yeah, just a process, man. It truly is. I think a lot of times the parents, they just see practice and game, but they don't see the time and the mental stressors that go into the week just to prepare for the game. Because even last year, man, when we lost in the semifinals, I thought about that all year, man. Up until from winter of last year up until this spring when we finally won a championship, I thought about that like the whole year. I was
Oh,
like,
congrats on the championship.
appreciate it, brother. I was like, man, what could we do better? You know, I realized that it was my shortcoming, and it takes a lot of humility to look in the mirror and say, we didn't win. They weren't successful because of what I instilled in them as coaches. We didn't practice hard last year, so I had to go back to the drawing board and say, all right, we're gonna practice hard. So last year my mindset was we're gonna practice, do the best we can, and then we're gonna play hard in the game. But no, man, this year I turned the intensity meter way up. Had to tell the parents, like, hey, you're going to see a different Coach E this year. You know, that's just what it is. I see the potential in these players, and I have to prepare them for battle and prepare them for war. So I even had my 4-year-olds, man, scrimmaging against the 8-year-olds this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like if you could push a 4-year-old out of your way, 8-year-old out of your way in practice, what are you going to do against a 4-year-old that you're going against in the game?
Right.
And it was to the point where we dominated, man. And it just took an honest conversation with myself, a couple parents, and I said, dag, man, even last year, I feel like my team last year was more talented than this year, but I didn't emphasize the intensity and the physicality, which is why the 2 games we lost, you know, we got body, man, and the kids didn't know how to respond to that adversity. You know, they didn't know how to impose their will when someone else was fighting against you.
Right. Yeah. And that's a fair adjustment, and I want to commend you for that because, you know, sometimes taking the accountability and understanding that. But I feel like now that you've established a routine, a remedy for it, now it's like, all right, bet. Like, I know what to do. I know how to intensify things, and I'm going to be able to, you know, stick to the regimen and whatever it is because that's what you are setting. You're establishing and building the winning culture. You know what I'm saying? And that takes time. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't understand that. That takes time, bro. Like, that's not going to be like Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes time.
No,
For
it
sure.
does. It does. Yeah, I'm just grateful, man, because a lot of the players I coach, I know their parents. I either play with their parents or I play with their parents' siblings. Or my dad coach their uncles. So everyone's all tied in and connected to that small community over in Kentland. And I'm just grateful, man. I'm looking forward for to what's to come. I feel like we're brewing and we're building something great over there, man. And we just need more people to get on board, man.
Nah, for sure. Well, like I said, man, it's definitely been a great. I feel like you're doing great things. It's great to know that Kentland is back in the fold. You know what I'm saying?
sir.
Back in the swing with all these things. But as you're continuing to do these things, man, like what's the self care for you? Like how do you keep yourself grounded and motivated and stuff? Because I know coaching is a lot,
Yeah.
exerting a lot of energy.
It
I
is.
mean, you know,
It is,
working with the
man.
youth or just work in general
Yeah.
could be like, all right, but I'm doing a lot. So like, what's the self care like for you and things like that, man?
I need to do better at self care. I can be honest with myself about that because I have my own kids as well, in addition to pouring into these other kids, and I can admit that I do forget about myself at times. Not intentional, but I do need to be more intentional and deliberate with self care for myself. So if I'm able to get a good lift session in, I will do that. But I enjoy walking for the most
Gotcha.
part.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I enjoy walking, man.
That's what's up.
I walk a mile literally in no time if I just want to get out the house and just get some air.
Nah, it's always good getting them steps in, man. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
blame you. I don't blame you. I'm on the same thing with that. I try to disconnect from the phone, though. I try to put myself on D&D while I
It's
do it.
It's hard, man.
It's
It is
hard.
because it seems like my phone's always going off. I'm at work answering things about the organization. I'm at home. I can get a phone call from a parent. Coach E, blah, 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 what's going on? I'm like, all right, sometimes, but I pray that we do get to a space where, we can delegate and put other measures in place. So we can have, I guess, like a little chain of command in a sense.
Right.
And it can alleviate a lot of the stress and overload for myself.
Gotcha.
So I do got to do better with that.
For
Appreciate
sure.
that.
So as far as like, with the youth and what you're seeing right now, like what would you tell like the youth, especially like in the community, like the things that, that we were seeing, like some advice, some motivation and things like that, like what would you tell them?
Yeah. What age are we talking?
You got elementary, you got middle,
Elementary
you got-
school.
yeah.
I would just tell elementary kids, man, just keep dreaming. As cliche as that says with you, don't allow anyone to put a cap on what you're able to accomplish. Keep dreaming. Middle schoolers, I tell them start getting to know yourself. Yeah, start getting to know yourself and understand what it is you want out of life and start preparing for that. And for high schoolers, I tell them get the ball rolling. I know a lot of people say, "Oh, life is short," but that's a true statement. Or a lot of people may say you're young, but you're not gonna be young forever. You're not gonna be young forever. So get the ball rolling. Understand that if you want something, you got to go get it. Yeah, my approach with high schoolers would be a little different from middle schoolers. and
Yeah, no, for
elementary
sure. I think
stage.
it's all
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, but
I think it's definitely, I feel like what elementary is like, they're not even afraid to imagine.
right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah,
okay,
they're
man,
so
I got
innocent
all
and so
this.
pure.
Right.
You
And
know,
then middle schoolers is like, yo, okay, you know what? Yeah.
it's slightly corrupted a little
yeah,
bit.
a little bit. It's like, you know what? I'm grown. Nah, you really not grown. It's
Right.
like, I am trying to find myself, like you said. You
Yep.
get that identity crisis or trying to fit in, whatever like that. And then I think with high school, it's like, all right, bet. If you got a glimpse of your purpose, lock in on it. You know
Yep.
what I mean? So, for sure, man. Well, this has been a great conversation, man.
I appreciate it, brother.
Like I said, for me, I just hope that you continue to do the things that God has instilled you to do. I feel like it's great that you've been, like I said, in the community already. So it's like a homecoming for you. You know what I'm
sir.
saying? With this whole entire thing.
Yeah, it's
And I just
it's
hope
funny,
dope.
man. Like, just one of my parents, she was a cheerleader for the team, and I've known her since I was like 5 years old, and I played football with both of her brothers, man. And it's just a full circle moment. Seeing her mom come out to the game, talking junk to me, and then seeing, her daughter come out to the game. It's just like, you remember this, Coach E? I remember when we used to have these homecoming games. I remember when my mom used to bring this out for the team. So I'm just grateful, man. I just feel like God placed me here. I'm glad that I was able to make that transition so seamlessly from the military and knowing that I wanted to get back to my community.
For sure. I feel like, God has prepared you every step of the way. Like,
Yes,
you probably
sir.
looked at it like, all right, well, yeah, you're going to go through this X, Y, and Z, but guess what? I'm going to put you right back
Yep.
where it all started. And it's like, whoa, okay. Bet. Say no more. So
Yeah.
now it's like you embraced it, bro. So like I said, from one brother to another, I salute you. I see you, bro, and keep going because I feel like it's definitely needed. And I hope that more brothers can, do community work and, want to be pillars and help. Serve in any capacity, rather you coach, rather you mentor, rather you help a young person or serve at your church or whatever it may be. Just realize that it's bigger than you.
Absolutely.
And just realize that, at the end of the day, have a good heart. Have a good heart for serving.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what I mean? For sure, man. Well, I appreciate this conversation,
Hey,
man.
thank you as
Appreciate
well.
you.
Thank you as well, man. If anybody, has a yearning desire to volunteer, feel free to contact me. You post my social media information.
Yes, for sure.
Like I said, we're building something great in Kentland, and if you want to be a part of greatness, come on over.
Yeah, so like I said before, like if you want to volunteer and you're in the Kentland area, surrounding areas, like I said, you want to volunteer, you want to add value to the program and what they have going on, like I said, tap in with them. Like I said, they're doing a lot of things, great things for the youth, keeping them engaged, definitely trying to expand from football to basketball to soccer and obviously beyond. I mean, I can see clubs mentoring all
Yes,
these
sir.
things, know what I'm saying? So don't put a cap on what the youth can't do, know what I mean? And all these things. So like I said, at the end of the day, make sure that y'all tap in with them. And y'all already know, the harder you grind, the bigger you dream. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. The harder you grind, the bigger you dream. I said the harder you grind, the bigger you dream. And we out. Appreciate y'all.
Soundstripe.